Hello, everybody, and welcome. And I am welcoming you on behalf of me as well as the dean. So I'm really thrilled to see you all here. I'm really thrilled to see all of you here. This is huge compared to last year. I'm really glad you're here to learn about what you can in relation to your TA appointments. I would like to know who's in the room. How many of you are new to the Madison campus? Okay, I'm going to say this now and I'm going to say it later. If you leave this campus at the end of your graduate education and you haven't spent at least one afternoon or one evening on the terrace, shame on you. Take advantage of this city. It is an unbelievable city. I came here 22 years ago, and I don't want to live anyplace else. The opportunities that are available socially as well as culturally as well as just plain old fun is amazing. So take advantage of everything that's out there, but also take advantage of the university. The university, as you know, is one of the top universities in the country. You are actually in one of the top schools of education or colleges of education in the country as well. We are made up of, and I'm going to give you who we are first, and then how wonderful we are, and then I'll give you my words of advice. We're made up of 9 academic departments. I believe that Adam ran through them for you, but I want to make sure that you get the full list because WCER probably doesn't work with a couple of the departments. The Department of Art, which includes art education, Department of Counseling and Psychology, Department of Curriculum and Instruction, which is one of the largest departments in the school, the Department of Dance, which is our newest department, Department of Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis, Department of Educational Policy Studies, Department of Educational Psychology, Department of Kinesiology, which includes occupational therapy, and the Department of Rehab Psych and Special Education. We are a diverse school of education. We are not all teacher education. We are not all related to the education endeavor in the PK-12 schools. We are primarily related to that, but that is not our sole mission, and you can see that from the list of our departments. We have 3 research centers associated with the school. Adam talked about the Wisconsin Center, or the Center on, Wisconsin Center for Educational Research, but we also have the Center on Education and Work, the Wisconsin Center for the Advancement of Post-Secondary Education, fondly known as WISCAPE. And then we are associated with the Wasteman Center as well. And the Wasteman Center does a lot of work around disabilities, genetic work, medical work. A lot of the neuroscience work that's being done in relation to disabilities is being done at the Wasteman Center. The school offers an array of programs that are way beyond these centers. We also have the Cooperative Children's Book Center, or the CCBC, Tandem Press, which is responsible for the wonderful artwork that you see throughout the building, the Testing and Evaluation Center, Education Outreach and Partnerships, also known as EOP. You're going to get into the alphabet soup here pretty soon, and that's who EOP is. We have Merit, which is Media, Educational Resources, and Information Technology, and they will talk more this afternoon. We have Education Portfolios and Career Services, which is EPCS. We have the Partner School Network, which is PSN. We probably have an acronym for just about anything you want. So how big are we? We enroll over 3,000 students a year. Of those, you make up about 1,100. We have more than 143 faculty, and then when you combine the academic staff, the faculty, classified staff, graduate assistants, there's more than 1,000 people employed in the School of Education. So we're not small. We grant about 758 degrees a year, and we have 45,000 plus alumni and counting. And one day you will be one of those people. So I'm really thrilled to be able to say that to you. In the national rankings, we have been identified as 9th in the nation as one of the best choices for graduate schools. We have the 1 or 2 top programs in the country in the following areas: counseling, psych, and personnel services, curriculum instruction, educational psychology, educational administration and supervision, elementary education, printmaking, rehab counseling, and then we have programs that are at 3 and 11, educational policy, secondary education, and special education. So this is no slouch of a school that you've come to. Faculty are very dedicated to their work, very concerned about making sure that our fields move forward, and also very concerned about making sure that our graduate students and our undergraduate students get a top education. So what's happening in the School of Education these days? My job is primarily teacher education, but I've also been dabbling in some other areas while we are short on staff. And so what I'm going to mention to you are mostly around teacher education because I know those things, but I'm also going to mention a couple other things. We have a recently funded Madison Initiative for Undergraduates proposal called the Education and Education Services. It is a certificate program for undergraduates. You may touch this program because you may be TAing in classes for it. This is a 12 to 15 to 18 credit, depending on how the students shape it, certificate program that will lead them to having expertise in education, but not necessarily into teacher education. We see it as a feeder to our what will be our post-baccalaureate secondary education program, as well as to educational psychology and counseling psychology and rehab psychology. It is not intended to prepare teachers, and I think that's a really important thing for everybody to know. We do want people to have a background in that because we are, at the University of Wisconsin at Madison is, and this is not a happy statistic for me, one of the primary providers for Teach for America. Why is it not a happy statistic for me? These are people who did not come into teacher education in the normal way, so they're entering schools without being fully prepared. We hope that through the education certificate program, that we will actually at least provide some base training for those people before they move into their Teach for America positions. We don't know if we're going to get them, but we're going to work hard. One of the things that we added to the EES certificate this year with the funding was we will now have neuroscience and education within the School of Education. We have hired 3 faculty members who have research that's related to neuroscience and education. All 3 are in educational psychology at this time. All 3 have connections to other neurosciences on the campus. And in fact, during American Education this week, I'm plugging it because we're just finishing the agenda. I'm so glad that we got this done. American Education Week, November 12th through the 14th, we're going to have the theme called Frontiers in Education. There will be 4 primary presentations related to education and neuroscience. On the first day, we will have a presentation on reading and neuroscience, and we will also have a presentation on early childhood and neuroscience. We have paired neuroscience researchers with education researchers to talk about how each other's research informs each other. On the second day, we will have neuroscience and social-emotional development within the context of gaming. And if any of you have heard of Richie Davidson, he wrote a book on emotions and the development of emotions and the neuroscience of that. Richie is the neuroscientist that will be working with Kurt Squire on that one. We are anticipating a large crowd once people know it's out there. Richie has sold out multiple times. So if you want to attend that one, when the agenda comes out, make sure you're here early. And we close the last day with neuroscience and math. There's an awful lot of new work going into what we know about math learning and how the brain changes with math learning. So these are exciting times in that area, and we expect to grow as we move forward in that area. We also have some new legislation that is going to affect teacher education in the School of Education. Those of you who are in teacher education positions, please raise your hand. Supervisors, lecturers, okay, not too many of you. The state legislature has decided that none of us do it right, and so we're going to be held to some higher, what they call standards. We have new assessments coming into the school that you will be working with. If you're going to be working with the elementary program, we will be preparing teachers for what is currently called the Massachusetts Teacher Education Licensing Exam, the MTEL Foundations of Reading. Those of you who know about reading, it's a test about the knowledge of the Big Five in reading. They're very specific. They want very specific information presented on the test. We will be working very hard to prepare our students to pass that test. Currently, the pass rate, first-time pass rate in Massachusetts is only around 60%. The test is $150. It's unacceptable to have our students have to take it multiple times. So we'll be working really hard around that area. The second test that we'll be working on, but it will not come into being for the next 3 years, but you'll see significant program change, is the teacher performance assessment. The teacher performance assessment is a nationwide effort on the part of schools of education as well as departments of education, the American Association of Colleges of Teacher Education, and Stanford University to have a real assessment at the end of teacher education that isn't a paper pencil assessment, that really assesses the performance of people prior to going into the classroom. We have been, for the last 3 years, involved in the piloting and field testing of this particular assessment. It's been an extremely exciting endeavor. As we have moved through pieces of it, I have seen value in what we have been learning. We've had our science education program do it all 3 years and actually made curricular changes as a result of their students' performance in the assessment. And then we had students, only 17 students nationwide, out of over 500 science education students, got the top scores in the 15 rubrics, and we had many of those students. So we're doing a great job in that area. That will make a lot of changes in program, the portfolio system, all kinds of things. So you'll be involved in that as well. And believe me, there are a lot of faculty who don't know much about it, despite the fact we've been involved, because we've had such a small involvement. So they'll be learning alongside of you. We also have one more thing that's happening in teacher education, but it may affect all of you, is that we have to revise the teacher education standards. The teacher education standards guide our future teachers, but they also guide our future administrators, our future school counselors, our future school psychologists, school nurses, anybody who works in the K-12 school system. We will be working on those because there have been so many changes in the last few years that we have to update and make ours more relevant. So if you hear anything about that, that's definitely going to affect the portfolios. If you hear anything about that, that's what's going on. We have another big thing that's happening in the school, and we don't know how this is going to play out or exactly the timing of it, but the university is moving towards developing a School of the Arts. It's a really exciting thing. It will bring together music and dance and art history and art and a few other departments so that they have their own home, so that they are not just part of little pieces of all the other schools and colleges in the university. So that will probably come to fruition in your time here if you're going to be here for 2 to 3 years, which I imagine the vast majority of you will be here at least 3 years. Get to know the broader campus. Here are my words of wisdom. Get to know the broader campus. Get to know other disciplines. Don't just know people in the School of Education. Take classes that are not in the School of Education. Find out who's doing what in nursing, or in engineering, or in the business school. Some of the deepest contacts I made when I was in graduate school had nothing to do with education. And let me tell you, when you walk out the doors here and you've learned about other disciplines, you are much better grounded as a professional. You cannot stay insular. You cannot stay within your own world. The other piece of this that I give advice to you is when you start doing those famous literature searches or infamous literature searches that you're going to have to do across the course of your time here, don't just look at education journals. It's ridiculous. There's a whole world of research out there that is way beyond education. Social work, rehab. Well, actually, rehab publishes in a lot of the same journals that educators publish in. There's a work, if you're going to be doing any work that would relate to human resources management, all the business journals, the nursing journals, you will find that a lot of the research methodology that you're interested in cuts across all kinds of fields. Do not limit yourself to just the School of Education or just your discipline. You'll be limiting your flexibility, you'll be limiting your knowledge base, and you won't impress anybody when it comes time for an interview. The other thing that I'd like to recommend to you is to make sure that you attend lectures and events throughout the school and throughout the university. There are all kinds of exciting things going on. The film festival, there are art shows, there are dance shows. Do that kind of stuff while you're here, because this is the time of your life where you're going to have the time. Yes, even though you're probably going to feel like you're crazed, this is the time of your life when you're going to have the time to do these things. And if you don't access these resources on campus, you will always regret that you did not. Remember, live a full life. You are not just a student. You are not just a teaching assistant. You are a student, a teaching assistant, a friend, a spouse, a parent, whatever. You are all these things. You live the life of all these things. If you find that all you're doing is being a student and a teaching assistant, you need to step back and take a look. These 3 years are going to go fly by fast, but you don't want to regret that you did nothing beyond just what you were required to do. You won't be very happy when you're done either, if that's all you've done. And remember that your primary job, and I may be the only person who will say this out loud, your primary job is to be a graduate student. Your primary job is not your teaching assistantship. It is important that you fulfill your roles as teaching assistants to the best of your ability, but your primary job while you're here is your graduate degree. And you need to keep that in mind, because some people get so tied into their teaching assistants that they let their academics slow down or lag, and it takes them forever to get out of here. That's not to your benefit. It's not to your program. Well, it might be to your program's benefit, but it's not to your benefit. Focus on what you need and where you need to go, and be an advocate for yourself. Don't expect me or somebody else to know what you need or to take on the role of being your mother or your father or your monitor. Because believe me, I don't have time. And most other faculty don't either. And I seriously don't have the memory anymore to do it. So be your own advocate. And welcome. I'm thrilled to see all of you here.